So my name is Brandi, and I own BLG Business Solutions. If you're wondering why we're here today, um, what happened is that I posted a blog about social media and event marketing in Regina because social media is what I do. And I had noticed lately that a lot of the companies and organizations in Regina are getting better at marketing their events before, during, and after using social media, but there was a big gap there. They weren't using it quite as well as they could be or as often, maybe sometimes doing the wrong things. And so I made a blog about it, and then you commented on that, and that's kind of how this whole thing started.
Exactly. Yeah. I've always followed what you've been doing. I'm always impressed with your blogs and your insights and your knowledge on social media. And I saw the blog post about event marketing, and what really caught my attention was where you said that there's so many times people say there's nothing to do in this city, or you find out about an event after the fact. I've been involved with recently at Gateway Music Festival, helping out with social media and traditional media, as well as in the past. Telemiracle 38 being a part of the social media team, Junos 2013, Breakout West 2012, Mosaic this year. You and I were both actually on the social media team, Mosaic.
Yeah.
And just seeing how they've done stuff, and I thought it'd be great if we actually got together and just kind of shared some ideas and some insights, and had a few questions that we could discuss what we thought about this all.
Yeah. Yeah, so we came up with a few kind of talking points that we wanted to go over. We may go way off topic, but that's fine. We just didn't want any awkward pauses.
Yeah, for sure. That's quite all right.
So kind of the very first thing that we were going to discuss is, do you think the internet as a marketing tool has helped or hindered event promotion? And like I said before, our session froze. My answer to that is both. And the reason for that is it has helped in terms of allowing people access to maybe audiences that they wouldn't have had before at a slightly more affordable rate. So maybe small businesses can kind of compete in the event market, whereas before, like, a large event would have had a lot of dollars to sink into promotion, and a smaller event might not have.
Exactly.
On the other hand, there are now so many avenues of promotion. I think this is probably true as marketing as a whole. People are overwhelmed. They don't know which one is best, where to start, the best practices, and then sometimes that just paralyzes people and they don't do anything.
Exactly. No, I completely agree with you. What I had mentioned to you earlier too was I kind of go by a philosophy from the 90s. When I was a teenager, and I needed to find out about events. This is pre-internet, or band-related information. There was the avenues of television, radio, and mail. And you had, at the time, you had 3 channels. You had CTV, you had Global, or I think it was STV at the time. Anyway, you had these 3 channels, and of course, the standard French channel, right?
Right.
That nobody watched.
Yeah.
But trying to get back to those days, because you're exactly right. Nowadays, it becomes overwhelming. I have 97 Facebook event invites, and I can't keep track of all the dates and what's going on and stuff like that around me. So I think that nowadays, though, it has provided an outlet, like exactly the same as you said, that you can reach an audience you never would have had to been able to before. At a fraction of the price. But I found one of the best tips, I guess, or tricks too, as an audience member into finding out about events. What I've done is seeking out the venues, the events, the people, the businesses, and nonprofits that are putting on these events that I'm interested in, and following them, whether it be following them on Twitter, subscribing to their email newsletter or their blog, RSS feeds, all that stuff, following them on Facebook, and putting a little bit of effort on my end. But now it's gotten to a point where I actually can go on Twitter, and anything I need to know is all right there.
Yeah.
It's all laid out for me, because these businesses are actually compiling all this information and letting people know about events. It's just a matter of us obtaining it, right?
Getting there. Yeah, I noticed Twitter, definitely, I would say in Regina, like, for finding out what's going on, Twitter is the place to be.
Exactly, yeah.
Because everyone's getting onto Twitter now. Facebook, so. That's what everyone knows, but not everyone is using it that great.
And that's the problem,
So,
yeah.
yeah. But I do, yeah, definitely, if I want to find out what's going on, like I'll go onto Twitter and just browse the hashtag YQR and see what's happening.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think too, like I know, for example, there's a friend of mine runs Music Regina,
Hmm.
so he recognized that there's a necessity to have all the local music events in one hub, basically on a website and on Twitter. So you can follow them on Twitter, and at any given time, you can see what concerts are going on in Regina at night or during the day or whatever it may be
Hmm.
on the weekends.
Yeah.
Um, and it's when you get involved and when you start to pay attention that you notice how much is actually going on around you. For example, in April, there was a live concert every single night throughout the entire month. So it's
Yeah.
interesting, right?
Hmm.
Um, so what do you think are some key elements to consider when you're promoting your event online and off?
Well, the big one, I guess, is who do you want to come to your event?
Hmm.
Because you have to figure out where those people are,
Yeah.
um, right? Like, um, I would say, oh, what's a good example? Um, like, I did an event a few months ago. I was brought in at the very last minute, literally the day before the event was occurring. So there was no prep, and they hadn't done any prep either. So I just had to do the event and then hopefully keep the excitement going.
Yeah.
Um, the problem is that it was an award ceremony, and I would say 90% of the businesses that were nominated were only a couple of them were on Twitter.
Yeah.
A few more were on Facebook, and then some of them barely had websites.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
So
it hard.
So I was trying to interact all through the evening, and luckily, just some of the people that were there were a little more tech savvy, I guess, and so they were online and interacting with what I was doing, but the businesses not so much. So, like looking back on it, well, maybe like live tweeting that particular event,
Hmm.
was it worth the time? Maybe not so much. Um, so that's the one big thing is, well, okay, who's paying attention to what you're doing? If they, Oops, my computer's talking to me. Um, um, if they're not on social media, then maybe you need to look at just traditional marketing channels, or
Yeah.
maybe not to put so much time and effort into it. Um, so that's the big one. That if they're not there, then
Then what's the point? Yeah.
right, like don't do it just to say, oh, I did it. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we live tweet our events. Well, if no one's paying attention, then there's no point.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That when I used to market and promote events for the Regina Symphony Orchestra years ago, we recognized our audience. Obviously, when it comes to a symphony, your audience is an older demographic.
Hmm.
They may not be on Twitter as well, just like you mentioned. So how do you appeal to them? What we did was we stuck with that traditional marketing. Whether it be sending out mail outs or things like that, the posters around town and stuff, visuals, billboards, bus ads,
Hmm.
all that stuff. But on the same token, we figured out that we need to draw in a younger audience, right? So that would be our social media tie-in. So what we actually ended up doing was how do you get a 14-year-old kid interested in Franz Liszt's 200th birthday? There's really nothing that's more boring. um, so what we actually ended up doing was we were fortunate at the time we had a video games live concert
Hmm.
which incorporated video game music in it. It
I
was
remember
yeah,
that.
and we
Yeah.
did an online promotion where if we were at the time, and I know it's not a numbers game per se, but at the time, if we reached a certain amount of followers by this date and time, we dropped ticket prices to $10 per person, which ended up happening, got us a younger audience, and you could see like a mother of 5 take her children to the symphony, which is fantastic.
Right.
But then the trick was, okay, so after the event ends, how do you keep interest? So
Hmm.
like I said, the next concert is Franz Liszt's 200th birthday. Why would a 15-year-old who likes playing video games and Call of Duty and stuff all the time, why would that interest him? So it's a
Yeah.
matter of figuring out how to tie that into your audience and how to get them interested and excited. So things like I don't know if you've ever heard, there's an indie rock band from France, I believe, called Phoenix. They wrote a song called Listomania. which is actually a really energetic song. It's a good story because Listomania refers to, in the late 1800s, Franz Liszt, who is a celebrated Hungarian composer and pianist. People were so enthralled with him that they would freak out when they saw him. They'd steal locks of his hair, they'd steal parts of his clothing, they'd steal cigar butts. And at the time, this is pre-Beatles mania. At the time, they didn't know what was going on. So back in the late 1800s, they considered it a medical condition. So you were afflicted with listomania. So there's that tie-in. Like, that's a really cool story, and it's a really interesting story that might appeal to the 14-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
To get them interested. I want to hear these songs that are getting people, making people literally go crazy.
Right. Yeah.
So I think, I mean, that's some of the key elements, and I think some other things too is, I find when it comes to music events, like for example, Gateway Festival, a lot of event promotion and marketing will tell you that an artist is coming to town, but they never share their artist story or their music with you. So what will get somebody to leave their house at 7 o'clock at night? You know, let them listen to music. Tell me more about the artist. You know, some fast facts or whatever it may be, random information, like cool things that might be like, I want to buy a ticket. I really need to go see this. Build that excitement around them.
Yeah, especially if it's someone you don't know and you've never heard your music, there has to be something there to get you interested.
Exactly, so. Right? Yeah, it's very, very important. So did you want to talk about some businesses and organizations you think are doing very well?
Yeah. We're probably going to say a lot of the same people, I would imagine. So, like, the very first ones that popped in my head when I saw that question was Downtown Regina and also Market Regina, because they often, like, when the market's on, they're working hand in hand a lot. But I think they do a really great job. And the nice thing about Downtown Regina is that they're doing a great job at promoting events that are going on for the other businesses. So I don't want to say taking up the slack for those businesses who aren't on social media. But they're doing a lot of work for the downtown businesses. And so I know that's one, like if I'm going to a specific account because I want to know something that's going on downtown, I would definitely go there before I would like check out the account of an individual business. Not to say none of them are doing a good job, because there are a few, like Flip, for example, is doing an awesome job. But those would be two big ones that I thought of right away. What about you?
That one I agree with you about 700%. From all the small things they're doing, they're always active on Twitter. They're taking professional photos and sharing them online with people to get them interested. They're talking about their vendors. Market Under the Stars, which is actually going on tonight. They have celebrity eating contest, which is a fun initiative. They have yoga. All these cool things they're doing, and they're promoting it very well. Cinema Under the Stars, which drew in, 2,000 people.
There's an amazing amount of people.
Yeah, and just like taking photos, sharing it, and getting people excited, and getting people to help vote on what movies they want. It's just a great initiative to get people interacting. One of the ones I've been most impressed with in recent times is Mosaic. The Festival of Cultures, not the company, but
clarify.
Yes. What really impressed me about them was that they actually were super organized. They knew all their social media tools. They knew which ones they were going to use. They did training sessions with everybody. They gave everybody all the information you needed. They had damage control in place should people be upset or should they need to have it there. All the way down to schedules and just being very meticulous with their information, which I thought was extremely helpful. And utilizing apps like Sprout Social, where you could have people flagging certain tweets, and everybody can kind of join in, and having a hub where everybody can actually have their own accounts and stuff like that. But they also tied that in with the traditional marketing, right? Yeah. Mosaic is obviously something in Regina that everybody by now knows, but there's a large number of new people to our city that may have never heard of it, and so they had this great branding around it too, with a specific character. They had the Gnome, and
that was great.
It's cool, hey?
I love that.
Have him have his own voice and have his own persona, and you saw him on the buses, you saw him on the billboards, you may have seen him on television, heard him on the radio, and then you can actually follow this person online, which was fantastic, because then not a stern, direct company saying, buy tickets to our event. It's a fun-loving gnome saying, I just got back from Italy, come join me.
Right. Yeah.
Brilliant, right?
Yeah, and it made it a bit more fun for us,
Hmm.
I think, too, because
Yeah.
we were Mo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just when I found out that we would be doing stuff from the Mo account, not from Mosaic's account, I was like, oh, that is awesome because then I
Yeah.
could
Right.
be a little bit silly.
Yeah.
I took a lot of pictures laying on the ground because I was like, well, I'm a gnome, so I'm really short.
Which is
Like,
smart. Very smart.
yeah, it made it. I know I got lots of weird looks. My friends were like, "What is she doing?" Um, but yeah, it made it really great, and I was like, I will absolutely help out next year if you
Hmm.
guys are doing this again.
Yeah.
Um, the other nice thing I noticed about that too is some of the other pavilions, for the first time, I think, um, had Twitter and Instagram accounts,
Yes.
so you could actually interact with some of the other pavilions.
Yeah.
I think there's only like mm, well, there was probably like 8 or 10, but there was only a couple of them that were actually like uh, staying up with it and tweeting all
Yeah.
day. Um, it would be awesome next year if more of the pavilions could get involved and they could like I think that's the next step is
Hmm.
they're all doing their own thing, but if um, like the multicultural council could get together with the representatives of the pavilions and they could kind of like all get on the same page, I think that would be awesome, but I know that's a lot of organizing.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I do agree with you, and I think one of the things I really enjoyed too was the fact of small details. Like they set up a Twitter list, which not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people do. I know with the city of Regina we have Twitter lists for local attractions, local media, stuff like that,
Yeah.
emergency services. But having a Twitter list of all the pavilions, so if I'm on the move and I'm trying to tweet and take photos
Oh,
and I forget the pavilion's handle,
yeah.
there it is, right
Yeah.
there. It's perfect. It's that forward thinking and always trying to plan ahead, plan for the
Mm-hmm.
worst case scenario, right? So,
Yeah.
and that ties into your great question about how to leverage other organizations in your social media, whether it be
Yeah.
umbrella or sponsors and stuff like that.
Yeah. I had a client who um, was in the Regina. I'm gonna get the name wrong. The Spring Home Show or the Home and Garden Show? Spring Home Show. I think that was it. And so I was doing live social media before and on the day of, and a little bit afterwards too. And so, of course, there was a hashtag, but there was maybe 6 people who were actually vendors at the trade show that were also live tweeting.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, like, I was walking around and seeing businesses that I know are on Twitter and thinking, you're missing out
Yeah,
on
exactly.
such
Well,
a
yeah,
great opportunity. And I was walking around and sometimes I would, like, if there was a business I really liked, I would tweet to them, say, hey, I saw your booth. And then, like, a day later, they'd be like, oh, thanks, we had fun. I was just, like, pulling my
yeah, right.
hair out. Because there was, like, that was the biggest spring home show we'd ever had. It was massive. Um, and yeah, I was just kind of like banging my head against the wall, thinking, "Oh, you guys."
What a fantastic way to you could have garnered interest around your booth and to get people talking
Mhm.
and right like because you would have people might have been watching what you were saying with them and they're interested in your conversation and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and especially like some of the like there was lots of services and stuff, but there was also lots of retail. Like, ask someone to take a picture holding your product or saying, "Oh, I love this." Like, what better way to get interest?
Exactly. It's free
So
advertising.
yeah, I had so many thoughts running through my head, and I thought, well, oh well. I think, yeah, that, yeah, because I did another event later on, and it was kind of the same thing. A lot of the vendors at that show, they weren't all local, so
Yeah.
I didn't know them as well. But it was the same kind of thing. Like nobody knew where people's booths were located. Like even basic stuff like come see me, I'll be here between these hours.
Yeah, like
I'm
details. Yeah,
yeah,
important.
like I'm in booth number whatever beside this one, and you know,
I actually have three examples for you. When you talk about leveraging organizations and businesses and stuff, one of the things is like Queen City X last night had the parade, and I know
right?
that they do absolutely fantastic job at their social media. So we wanted to go to the parade last night, and I knew right away. I go to their Twitter account, and there's a map. It's there, talking about sharing details with people. It's there for me, and it's simple and it's quick. But when it comes to leveraging businesses and stuff, a past incident, and I'll give you a current one, a past one. When I was with the Regina Symphony Orchestra, we recognized that our concert programs, we were recycling a lot at the end of the night. We'd have 500, 600 extra concert programs. So I tried to figure out a way to gain interest traditionally and then online as well with these events. And so we tied in with Mackenzie Art Gallery because art and music just kind of coincide, and they're a great organization to work alongside. Because generally people who appreciate art are also the same who appreciate music in some aspects. And what we did was we actually made collector's edition programs, concert programs, that were similar to the vein of trying to get people to collect them like you collect a 7-inch or a record. Right. And so what we did was we actually had the Mackenzie Art Gallery for every concert would supply a painting, an image of a painting that tied into the music. So we did a concert called Swashbucklers, Pirates and Rogues. That was pirate music, and they had a painting that was a pirate ship that was actually done in Regina in 1912 before they survived the tornado. Inside the program, they'd have a blurb explaining to you why it was significant and how it tied into the concert. Anyway, that was a great story to tell online too, and to build that relationship.
Yeah.
A current example of other organizations from a different angle is musicians. So with Gateway Festival, we were constantly interacting with musicians, and whether it be tagging them, mentioning them directly, talking with them, sharing their news, they'd be sharing our news, building that audience, because essentially every musician, there's 37 performers booked. Everyone had their own audiences, and we had an audience. So why not, work alongside them and have a sense of unity and all share each other's information, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Sorry, I tend to ramble on quite a bit. So.
That's fine.
Too much thought.
Yeah, we're both way too into social media and marketing. That's all. It's okay.
I know, and and whenever you talk about it too, do you find that your mind just I just have a million examples in my brain and a million things I want to talk about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what in your opinion are some practical tips? So if anybody wants to promote their events and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, definitely, kind of the basics, you should announce it. The simple things that people forget. They just assume people will show up. Yes. Right? So talking about it, generating a bit of excitement. I guess if you're going to be on Twitter, the big thing is to find a hashtag. And be careful with your hashtag, because somebody else might be using it for something else that you don't necessarily want to be associated with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think too that making sure that you use social media tools that are useful for your organization, not just the shiniest and newest ones, but ones that you think can benefit. You may not need a Pinterest account for your event, or you may not decide you don't want to use Instagram. But if your event is very focused on people seeing whether it be the decorations or entertainment or whatever it may be, what a great avenue to take photos all night and take videos and stuff like that. Yeah. And something that you are familiar with. So getting comfortable, I think, is a very important thing before people try to promote an event on Twitter. Talk to somebody like yourself and learn the ins and outs of it, right?
Yeah, definitely. If you're not comfortable with it, but if that's what you want to do, then maybe it's even an employee you have who uses Twitter. Well, maybe ask them to come to the event and do it for you. If you don't have anyone else, you can hire someone. There's lots of people doing stuff like this.
And people are eager, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely, and we were talking about with Mosaic a bit, to have that plan in place, because even if it's an employee, they might not know exactly, because someone just using Twitter personally, they're not going to think about the kinds of things you need to think about when you're doing it for business purposes. So having a plan in place, a disaster plan is something nobody thinks about. I've never had a client who hasn't been surprised when I've said, okay, we need to do this, because they're like, what do you mean somebody's going to say something bad about me?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, but yeah, those are some of the basics. And like I like to say Twitter, and we're talking about Twitter a lot.
Yeah,
It's kind of natural for events, but I like to say Twitter is a state of mind,
yeah,
because it's something you have to be thinking about. So during your event, like even if you don't have time to be on Twitter, keep posting or keep snapping pictures and taking
right.
little videos, because then when you have like 15 minutes to breathe, you're like, okay, I'm going to post these pictures.
Yeah,
Especially now you can, in a tweet, you can post multiple pictures, which I thought was
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Sure.
I was so excited when that happened.
I know it's such a simple thing, but it's so useful, right?
Yeah, definitely.
A story about that is actually Gateway Festival. So we go Gateway Festival, it's a 10-year anniversary. It happens in Bengoff, which is a town of 371 people in the Badlands, southern Saskatchewan. We get out there, and my intention was to do the odd tweet, live tweet, maybe take a photo, go on Facebook and stuff like that, Instagram it. And we get out there, and there's no cell service. So
Oh,
nothing. So I couldn't do anything. So what we ended up doing was I made sure to kind of document my travel, making mental notes, writing stuff down, taking photos.
mm-hmm.
And when I got back to 2014, where I can get cell service in Regina, um, what I did was I actually made like a highlight reel essentially. So I'd be doing
Nice.
daily Facebook updates and saying this is what happened, and then once I started sharing those highlights, I got a really great response and kind of rolling with the punches. I recognize that this is a perfect time to say to people, okay, they're excited, they're hyped up, they just saw this great event, they're super, eager to talk about it and stuff like that. Getting the audience's feedback, but then also saying like, who are you excited for to see in 2015?
Yeah.
Because now you have an attentive audience. It's not 4 months after the fact.
No.
You really want to share with who they feel would make it, a great event on stage. So, and that got a really good response too. But that was one thing too, and then I wanted to mention too another practical tip that I was thinking about was when you have somebody manning your social media or steering the ship, to kind of arm them to the teeth, for lack of a better term, with details and with information.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
Like how many
definitely.
times would somebody be running their Twitter account and you would say, what time does the event go till tonight? And then they'd have to go find somebody and making sure
Yeah.
everybody's informed, right?
Right. And especially with Twitter, like it's like it's like a live conversation. Like if we were
Exactly.
talking like this right now and you asked me, oh, what time is that at? And then I said, oh, give me 50 minutes, and then I walked away. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And if
um,
you,
as opposed to like getting an answer right away, and then you're like, okay, these people know what's going on.
yeah.
Um, yeah. That made me think too when you were talking about no cell service, because that reminded me, like if you have an event and if you know ahead of time that service is
Mhm.
spotty or bad, or I guess too if time is a concern, like you should try to be posting stuff live as much as you can, but there are
Mhm.
some things that you could even schedule ahead of time, like just basic, like basic information about the event, like doors open at this, here's
Exactly.
who's going to be there,
Yeah.
here's what the food is like those things. You don't
Yeah.
have to be immediate with them. You can
Yeah.
schedule them ahead of time to post like all throughout the day, and so that at least gives you a bit of breathing room. And if you get stuck somewhere with no service, you at least know that something's going out. People are getting some
Yeah.
sort of information.
You're not stuck. And you can even use programs like Hootsuite to schedule stuff too, right? In advance.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing I wanted to mention too was just quickly here was about an event such as Telemiracle, where you have 40 people backstage, you have all this stuff going on, everything is immediate, everything is quick. So what they did was they actually implemented WhatsApp, and we had a meeting prior, and
Oh,
everybody actually
nice.
got everybody's contact information. And throughout the evening, we had certain people we would sit at computers and tweet, but we had the texting option. So if you're on the other side of the Connexus Arts Center, I can still
Yeah.
contact you and get an answer if I need it,
Yeah.
which was very beneficial, very helped with response time, and just made everything run so smoother, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good idea if you have
yeah,
like multiple people doing it throughout the day. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good.
Yeah, so I know we've been chatting here for a while. I know you got another appointment here, so I'll let you get going. But thank you so much for the conversation. It was really informative, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
No, this is good. I like talking about this stuff. I
I
know
know,
my
Harry.
friends, their eyes glaze over when I start I start talking about Twitter. None of my friends are on Facebook. I don't have any of my like personal friends that I've known forever. None of them are on Twitter. They don't even. I'm
Wow.
like, oh, you guys.
Yeah.
So if I
What?
start thinking about talking about stuff, they just kind of get that look like, oh God.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, it's such a good relationship builder. Like you and I wouldn't be talking right now if it
Hmm.
wasn't John for Twitter and social media, right?
Yeah.
And for meeting new people and for finding out information and for everything, it's just an amazing resource and amazing tool. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And not just like for business, just for everything.
in
Finding out what's going
general,
on in the city. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And as you mentioned, like the YQR hashtag and stuff. Well, thank you so much for your
Mhm.
time. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
This was
Very cool.
this was fun.
Yeah,
Despite our technical difficulties.
it happens, but I guess that's the first time around. So
Yeah. Now, yeah, I'll have to spend like 15 minutes finding out what I did wrong when I was originally setting it up. I know it can be done.
yeah, I guess the cool thing is like once we know how to what the problem was, and it's like smooth sailing here on in, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Hangouts
well,
are so complicated. So
yeah,
there's like a million settings. It took me a long time because I was a little bit intimidated by it, but
yeah,
yeah, it's super helpful. So
yeah, it's very helpful. Cool. Well, I'll let you get going here,
all
and
right.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, until next time.
All right. See you later.
All right, see ya.
Bye.